Every day we are inching closer to what is supposedly the release of Grand Theft Auto 6, making it 7 years after Red Dead Redemption 2 and 13 years after Grand Theft Auto 5, the game that separated a bunch of kids from their college funds as they dropped it on shark cards instead. And now it's going to be time to travel to Vice City and see the GTA world as two new characters in the franchise that likes to disappear and reappear at different random moments. Unless you count the copious re-releases that Rockstar loves to do with GTA 5, because creativity is hard. They took a note from Bethesda that if you have dumb enough fans, you can just sell them the same slop over and over. Now that being said, Rockstar is now finding the time to actually do something new and release something with their landmark title, because it's not like they acknowledge any other game they ever make. Don't worry, Bully, Max Payne 3, and LA Noire, I didn't forget you guys. But with the new title, it has gone down in history as the most anticipated game of our time, which is a category at the Game Awards for some fucking reason. But with this new title, there's a lot of discussion around it. How it will work, what mechanics it will have, who the new characters are, whether it will be $100 and if it will even come out this year. And as someone who has played Rockstar games for years now, I want to give my 2 cents. I have been a Rockstar fan for a while, and my first 360 game I owned was GTA 4, and I have fond memories of playing it with my sister. Of course, she never wanted to do the shooting part, she just wanted to drive around and do the Sims bullshit and play dress up. But you know what? It was a bonding moment for the two of us. Nothing like violent, depressing Slavic media to really bring the family together. GTA 6 is the third and final game in the HD trilogy to bring an OG 3D map up to scale. 4 was in Liberty City, 5 was in San Andreas, and now 6 will be heading back to Vice City, which is my favorite in the 3D trilogy. Now it's going to look fairly similar to the vibe of Los Santos, as it does have that beach city vibe, but where it's really going to stand out is the swampy areas. I am curious to see how they end up enhancing the map compared to the original Vice City. What I hope they don't do is make it a big empty husk of a world like they did in GTA 5. Now maybe this is just because I spent a lot of time in GTA 5 with multiplayer, still, Los Santos was a dull map for me. As after a while of navigating, it felt like the city part of the map was the only thing where something interesting was happening. In contrast, the mountain areas were a whole lot of nothing unless you were looking for collectibles. Even in the off chance of going up them, they were just set up to have stunt jumps, as well as off-road races. I mean honestly, what the fuck even happens on this part of the map? GTA 4 has this problem with this map too, as it's all just New York City, but that being said, the city does look distinct with the islands. Each island has a distinct vibe and look that makes it unique. But not only that, GTA 4 also has a lot more interactivity within the city. Compared to GTA 5, there are a lot more buildings that you can enter at any given time, rewarding players for exploring and giving different paths to get from point A to point B. While there are buildings you can go into in 5, it is rarer, and they're saved for specific missions, locking up as soon as you finish them. Now, with that being said, I am hoping that lessons can be learned with Red Dead Redemption, as the map in that game was more tightly knit, and there were a lot of areas that could be discovered and buildings that could be entered for you to rob or be robbed depending on what happened. But that could be because Red Dead 2 takes place in a different time, where the only major city is Saint Denis. So it made sense as to why there was more of a focus on the world, as it mostly takes place outside, whereas GTA 5 was a big sprawling city, and it is harder to implement interiors for each and every building. But I would at the very least like to see an attempt be made to make the world feel alive. A struggle that I think almost every Rockstar game has is the attention going into the size of the map. Some of my favorite maps in open world games are ones that are smaller in size, but more focused. A smaller map is going to have more attention to detail and be more comfortable to explore. And even Red Dead had this issue. Having to ride back and forth over and over again got old and repetitive. It's a huge turnoff to me when it comes to replaying this game. Granted, Red Dead has a sin that many games have where it utilizes mounts rather than cars. It's something many developers have struggled with, and it continues to be a challenge as an engaging traversal experience as opposed to cars. I'll take the buggy cars of Cyberpunk release over Roach any day of the week. Sorry Roach, I love ya, but you glitch a little too much for me. Increasing the size of the map is expected of the new game, as we are going to be on more powerful hardware, but increasing in size doesn't mean it will be good. To me, the best open world Rockstar game is Bully, a smaller map with great focus on the surrounding area. and lots of things to do within it. Each district felt unique, and I hope we get the same variety within the map of GTA 6, where each district can have its unique feeling from each other, and they all have something going on for each of them. One thing that is on everyone's mind is the gameplay and how the world will complement it. All Rockstar games have a great focus on driving and shooting, while sprinkling in other various gameplay minigames as well. Driving has always been a big part of the series for years, so much so that GTA 5 is seen as much of a racing game as it is an action shooter. To give some praise to GTA 5 for once, I think they did a great job with how the cars and other vehicles work. There is good variety in them, and they all feel distinct. Sure, it wasn't realistic, and the physics weren't as complex as in GTA 4, but it does make it less frustrating. Being able to flip over is nice, and it feels like I have to swap cars a lot less, which is what they wanted in the 5th entry. The cars are meant to last a lot longer. However, it feels like GTA 4 does live up to the title a lot more, as you do steal cars way more often. And you have to be careful with them if you want to keep a car you like. And while in my current playthrough, I haven't been having that many issues with the driving, but this could be because I'm playing on keyboard, which handles a lot better compared to how it worked with the controller. GTA 5 also added a lot more in vehicles as well, with planes and even submarines, which makes sense given that the map was bigger, and I wonder if we will have as many in GTA 6. I imagine they will, as the map is rumored to be almost double the size of Los Santos, so having a jet late game to get around is gonna be handy. The other part that goes into play with the title is going to be the combat. Now, combat in Rockstar games, for the most part, is never something to write home about. That's natural, as these games are not solely focused on it. Many things are going on that make these games engaging. That being said, I do think there is room for improvement and places where 6 can really shine. On console, almost every Rockstar open world game has implemented the lock-on system with aiming, and in every game you have the advantage. The player character flinches less against enemies that feel the impact of the bullets. It's a good move, especially since most of the time you are on your own and outnumbered. But Rockstar has always found ways to spice up the shooting in some way, like the special abilities in 5 or the Deadeye system in Red Dead. But this is an opportunity for the company to take inspiration from another game in their catalog, Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 has incredible combat. The action is intense and the shootouts are home to some of the best in the series. The airport mission is a masterpiece. Even without the shoot-dodge mechanic, the combat allows for a lot of flexibility, but also requires thought from the player to plan out a route on their positioning. And also to make sure that they are in the right place, to get their shots off when they need to, and they are rewarded for taking risk at the right time. The gunplay allows for a lot of cinematic moments to happen, and it's clear that this game was used as a baseline for the gunplay in Red Dead 2. While not as in-depth, I would say that Red Dead 2 does have pretty good shooting gameplay, as it requires thought from the player and good positioning and coordination to stay ahead of your enemies. However, late game is when the gunplay starts to feel stale, as the reputation starts to set in, and the shooting gallery missions get repeated more and more. And when you get accustomed to keeping your Deadeye meter up, there isn't a lot of tension when it comes to an encounter because you can just slow down time and blow their heads off. Or in the case of Trevor in GTA 5, activate invincibility and kill everyone. In games prior, you either didn't have these abilities or you had to level them up. So the gunfights were intense, especially in missions where there weren't checkpoints. So if you failed, you had to restart at the very beginning. That's not to say that I don't like these abilities. Red Dead 2 does a pretty good job at how you maintain your Deadeye meter by utilizing different consumables that increase it while decreasing another stat. For example, smoking would increase your Deadeye, but decrease your health. Something else I hope they focus on is the melee combat. And once again, I want to look at Bully. Bully has the most in-depth melee combat of any Rockstar open world game, which makes sense because this game revolves around being a teenager at a prep school. And there are different combo and special moves that Jimmy can learn to fight off his enemies. And the combat gets engaging on this front compared to others where the hand-to-hand combat is incredibly simplified to just having a block, counter, and strike. Now I understand that in the late game you're going to be doing a lot of shooting anyway. But sometimes I want to dust the paws off and take things personal, alright? So having a fun fistfighting system can make great moments like getting into bar fights in Vice City, which is an average Saturday in Miami. I wonder if the characters will have special abilities like in the last game, and how differently Lucia and Jason will play. This leads to the characters of the next game. Grand Theft Auto 6 is set to have 2 playable characters, Lucia and Jason, setting it apart from the other games with the two having a romantic relationship with each other in a Bonnie and Clyde style of story. For me personally, I think Rockstar games are best when they focus on a single character. One of the reasons GTA 5's story hasn't aged well for me is that I don't have a strong connection to any of the 3 characters, which is a shame because I think they all have great potential. Still, they don't get the focus they really need to shine. Michael is by far the most interesting, being a clear inspiration of Tony Soprano, with an estranged family that he's torn between wanting to keep happy, but also getting dragged back into his life of crime and robbing banks. But that keeps getting interrupted by the other characters, and the story isn't solely on him, so the development and resolution with his family feels a little rushed. Franklin feels like a lesser version of CJ, and no, I'm not just saying that because he's black. He's set up as the typical protagonist as the rookie who's in over his head, but gets caught in a larger game, and ends up getting bigger and more successful from it. Unfortunately, the story that is set up for him doesn't have a satisfying build-up. There is intrigue with the drama he has with Lamar and his aunt, but it feels like he gets rewarded very rapidly and ends up moving up in the ladder too quickly compared to how other characters really had to work harder to get their place in the cities. To me, it always felt like Franklin was meant to be the true main character of the game, as he is the one getting in the middle of the 2 experienced men and has to prove himself with them. But with the other 2 being playable, it took away from Franklin's time to shine. Trevor is what happens when you give the average GTA player a personality. He is psychotic, crazy, and he does insane shit both in gameplay and in cutscenes. And that's about it when it comes to his personality. Sure, he is entertaining when combined with the other members of the trio, and this character may have worked for me back in 2013, but this style of humor has gotten old, and there's little to no nuance to his character. It's for these reasons that I believe players have a greater connection to characters like Nico and Arthur, because for the entirety of the game, you are playing as them and only them. You see everything from their perspective, and that connection to the player is formed because of that fact. Now, with that being said, I think 2 characters is a better idea. With them being a couple, it works both in the story and a gameplay sense. For the story, it's something that stays in line with what the GTA games have always been about, starting as a small fish to a big-time criminal, and at the same time, it stands out with having 2 characters that can bounce off each other, and it brings a different perspective on who they are working for. And it's something that we haven't seen Rockstar do, the closest being John and Abigail, and Michael and Trevor, if you count that. I really hope they nail the dynamic between these 2, and they feel like a genuine couple that would do anything for each other. On the gameplay side of things, it works as the income between the 2 of them would be shared, so playing as one character would be an extension of the other, so earning money as Jason is also benefiting Lucia and vice versa. It would work in a better sense as they have more focus compared to GTA 5, where all the characters had their own money in their pockets. And it seems like Rockstar realized that it was going to be annoying to handle, so they made it so that you get a large amount of money quickly for all 3 of the characters. But that left the problem of the game being too easy, as money was rarely an issue in GTA 5 after doing some of the big story missions. And that's the case because the missions are centered around heists. This is what the characters in 5 were meant to be. They are 3 part of a heist crew. And the missions that were the most fun in 5 were the heists, being able to plan out different scores, assign people on different tasks, and see different routes depending on which one you took. The issue with them is that these missions became very shallow when you dive deeper into them, and that comes with a tightening grip of how scripted these missions are in the game. As the titles have grown more dynamic and bombastic, the missions went from, here's a man you need to kill in this spot, go do it, and letting the player come up with their own way to do it, it has become scripted shooting galleries. For all the praise that people give Red Dead 2, many will still agree that Guarma is the low point for the gameplay, as each mission becomes a copy and paste shooting gallery with barely any variety. And it has bled into the open world events as well, as even they have a heavy restrictions on how the player is able to interact with the world. Now, I understand that these games are not RPGs, and they are meant to account for a large variety of outcomes. But being open to the environment and gameplay would be nice to give the player more say on how they want to approach their playstyle. Granted, every Rockstar game has the third act burnout, where the missions start to stagnate and the gameplay gets stale after the hours put in. While we know who the main characters are going to be, I do wonder who the supporting cast is, and if there will be anyone from previous titles who will also show up again. GTA 5 had a surprising number of characters from GTA 4 show up either as cameos or background characters that only keen-eyed viewers would notice. For example, Patrick McCreary was a recruitable member for the heist, and he even talked about the Bank of Liberty job with Nico. Personally, I don't think anyone from the main cast of GTA 5 is bound to show up, but if I were to pick one notable character, I would say Lester. He is a pretty iconic character, especially with GTA Online, and I think a cameo of him as a retired old man in Vice City would be funny as hell. They can even go a step further and make him someone who gives you jobs. Finally, we get to what we can expect with the main story. Like I said before, Jason and Lucia are going to support a more traditional Grand Theft Auto story, where they start from the bottom and work their way up to the top, with twists and turns in between. At the time of writing this script, the second trailer has recently been released, and we see a lot more of the dynamic between these two, giving us a great us against the world energy. There are a few theories on how things might turn out. The popular one that's spreading quite a bit is that Jason is an undercover cop and will end up betraying Lucia, and that's how she gets in jail in the first trailer. However, it does seem like she gets out early in the game, so it could be either that it is meant to throw players off, or Lucia will be in jail multiple times throughout the game. But something that I am liking about these two characters is that they feel very grounded, and the other surrounding characters are more of the crazy ones. That was the thing that made it entertaining about Nico, is that he was a very grounded and serious guy who worked for absolute nut jobs. One thing I do wonder is if we will get more morally gray decisions throughout the story. If the theories are true, and Jason is an undercover cop, I wonder if that will lead to having us choose between Jason and Lucia, and whoever you choose is out of the game. So GTA 5 had a final choice that Franklin could make in the game. Would you like to kill this player character, or kill the dickheads that want you to kill the player character? And this was a stupidly easy decision. It led to the most satisfying ending where the three characters killed the assholes that have been pestering them for almost the entire game. GTA 4 had a more nuanced choice with Dimitri, a character who has been a thorn in your side for a majority of the game. You can either take a deal with him and earn a large sum of money, or kill him and end his schemes once and for all. And both of these choices lead to the death of someone close to Nico, Roman or Kate. Now, that being said, this choice isn't perfect either, because players have spent a lot more time with Roman and built more of a connection with him as opposed to Kate. So, more chose to kill Dimitri for that reason, but also because, like I said before, Dimitri has been a thorn in your side for quite a while, and people have been waiting to kill him. So it was another obvious choice. However, in the presentation of the game, it has more of a consequence, and keeps with the overall vibe that GTA 4 is going for. So I hope GTA 6, there are choices that are dynamic and bring variety to the character and story, rather than just being an obvious good ending to choose. And if not, I just hope it does lead to a satisfying conclusion. And that's something that I think Red Dead 2 did a very good job with. Yeah, I know I talk shit on this game a lot, but it does have a very good ending. At the end of the day, I do want this game to be good, and I'm sure it will be. I have no doubt that we will get it eventually. At least I fucking hope so. Rockstar has delivered when it comes to games that are impressive pieces of technology with rich details that make them vibrant and immersive. But where they fall flat is with the gameplay aspects. Believe it or not, horse balls shriveling up in the snowy areas does not make a game more fun. But that's also not getting into how the multiplayer is, and how Rockstar and Take-Two treats the monetization of it. But that's a potential topic for another time. If you want to see me go through what the multiplayer could be, let me know in the comments below. And I'm sure they won't do any of the things I mentioned in the video, by the way, because when has the gaming industry ever made a good decision? But it's not like people won't buy it. I know who you are. You're gonna buy it. But if you guys have any ideas for what they could do, I'd love to discuss it in the comments. But with that being said, I hope the game's fun, the story is enjoyable, and the release is at a reasonable fucking price. so I don't have to sell my kidney for it. Plenty of people have already done that with the PS5. And remember, as Swen has said, make the product and the profit will come.